Show.
Hey everyone, I'm Chloe.
I'm Christelle.
I'm Claire.
And I'm Georgia.
And we are a Twisted Secret Theatre Company. Now unfortunately today Nicky was meant to be in our group, but he's had to go home. Our theatre company looks at giving audience and actors a relationship with the piece, letting them connect in their own individual ways. The reason we have the name the Twisted Secret Theatre Company is because our pieces will always hold a twist and or a secret.
Now today we've organised for a really special guest to come in. He's had to squeeze us into a very tight schedule and we're extremely lucky to have him. Friends, peers, classmates, Pollock. This is around £9,000 is going towards.
Please put your hands together for
Lee Strasberg.
Oh, yes, that's fine. Jimmy Dean used to call me that back in the day.
So you took lessons at the American Laboratory Theatre, is that right?
Yes, I'd studied under Vasilowski and Uspinskaya. It was then they studied under Stanislavski and Moscow.
So is that where you learned about the system?
Not so much learned, more inspired from the system. It took certain points from the system, such as relaxation, concentration, and others. It's what I based the method on.
So before you created the method, what was your involvement in the theatre guild?
Well, back in the 20s, I was an actor and stage manager in the theatre guild for around 10 years. Yes, I think it's 10 years. My debut at the theatre was at The First Soldier in the Procession. Also had roles in the Garrett Galettos, Gold Song, and Green Grow the Lilacs. I was stage manager for many productions as well. The Guardsman, Stone, Linfontaine, to name just one.
So it sounds like you had a good run at the Theatre Guild. In 1931, you formed the group theatre with Harold Clerman and Sharon Crawford. But unfortunately, the group ended only 10 years later in 1941. Why was that?
Unfortunately, we weren't able to keep it running. Harold, Cheryl, and I all tried our best to keep it running. We even took in Hollywood stars to see if that would help, but nothing. In the end, we sadly closed in 41.
We're very sorry to hear about that. You went on to act in 41 to 48. How did you find Hollywood?
Do you want me to be completely honest with you? It was an unfruitful yet educational experience.
So you went straight from Hollywood to the actor studio that Elia Kazan founded, and then 2 years later you were promoted to artistic director. How did it feel when you were invited to become a teacher there?
I was very pleased. One minute I was just an actor, and next I'm artistic director.
You know that Elia Kazan created the actor studio to carry on with the method that had been found while working in a theatre group. Why was it there?
It was there as a private home, if you get what I mean. It was there to make actors feel welcome to come in and work on their work and themselves away from the commercial world. It meant that the actors, they didn't have the pressure of the agents or people judging them for the way they work.
So once they were learning to relax and focus on themselves, how did they manage to create performances the world would be in awe of? For example, Marilyn Monroe couldn't have just walked in, closed her eyes and been an actress.
With Marilyn and with many other actors that I trained, they had to understand themselves before doing anything bigger. So a lot of them psychoanalyzed themselves first. Following on from the aim of the studio was to help actors work on the process of their acting and work towards their final result, rather than rush the process to get a result.
So,
Does that make sense?
So as an actor, one would spend a lot of time rehearsing, like getting to know the character, like living, walking, talking like them, to get a full understanding of how they would live their life.
Exactly.
Well, Fergie, we've got a clip here which I think pretty much sums up the method.
You have that naturally, but when you did it here, you went so much with the personal thing that you lost some of the things that they had, that she has. I lost, in the way in which you cried, I lost the character. You have to be aware of what's going on. Your heart breaks.
There are a lot of cliches around about what method acting is, you know, like if you tear your t-shirt, you're a method actor. And that's really not it. It's, the method just simply means a method of work, an approach to work, so that you can connect with your character on as deep a level as possible.
I
I tell people when they're joking about method, I am a method actor, always. And whether I'm doing Norma Ray or something seemingly lightweight and silly, I am quintessentially a method actor. I prepare totally with the methods with which I was taught. So I would never lose the accent. I would wear the clothes she would wear. I would go and work in the mill. I would walk around and use whatever exercises to find her walk and find her rhythm and be it. So that you were no longer acting, you were behaving.
What Lee's training was to learn how not to lie, to really tell the truth, how not to act. That's what he taught. How not to pretend, to not act as though I feel bad, but to feel bad.
So how did it feel watching yourself on the screen?
Never got used to it.
Well, thank you for coming in. I think we've all got a better understanding of the method now, so thanks again.
Thank you very much.
Now we're going to talk about his film career. His debut was in 1974 with The Godfather Part 2 as the Mr. Hanging Rock, which earned him a nomination for the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. Funnily enough, the winner of the award was Robert De Niro, who was a student of Strasberg's. He worked with performers such as Kim Hunter, Marilyn Monroe, Judy Harris, Paul Newman, Geraldine Page, Ellen Bustin, Al Pacino, Dustin Hoffman, James Dean, Marlon Brando, Robert De Niro, and James Fonda.
He also performed in many other films, such as The Cassandra Crossing in 1976, where he played Herman Kaplan. He was also in Boardwalk and Justice for All, where he played Al Pacino's grandfather, and performed in Going in Style in 1979, where he played Willie, one of the main characters. Most of his well-known acting work was in the 1970s, with many of the films being released in 1979.
Although he went on to do acting, he primarily was an acting teacher in private classes, and at the acting studio where his pupils were not just as good as his disciples. As he went on to work with some of them, such as Al Pacino and Robert De Niro, he also became close friends with everyone he had taught, such as Marilyn Monroe.
Lee's relationship with Marilyn was such a strong bond that when Marilyn sadly passed away, she left Lee 75% of her estate in her will. She also wrote Lee a letter just before her death explaining how she felt and why. Looking at concluding all of this information, we as a theatre company can see how much Lee Strasberg's work has influenced theatre and film and how it's still doing so today. As an example of this theory, we looked at how Heath Ledger took on the role of the Joker in the Batman film The Dark Knight.
Heath Ledger used a technique of method acting when he undertook the role. It was to such an extreme extent that he locked himself in a hotel room for 7 months before the filming, and then this led him to take in an overdose in prescribed sleeping pills. The previous Joker, Jack Nicholson, was a student of Lee's and advised Heath that becoming the Ledger in a method acting way could potentially ruin a person.
So in conclusion, you can see how Lee's work with method acting has such a strong presence in a lot of the work that we see and do for ourselves. There's a quote from Jane Fonda about how she felt about Lee Strasberg at his funeral. We hope you've enjoyed your presentation. Thank you very much, and happy birthday to Vicky.
Yeah.